The Los Angeles Times Book Prizes were first awarded in 1980 with the idea of honoring literary excellence and celebrating the community of readers in Los Angeles. The inspiration of former Times book editor Art Seidenbaum, those first prizes included awards in 4 book categories: fiction, history, general nonfiction, and poetry, as well as the inaugural Robert Kirsch Award, which was presented to Wallace Stegner for his extraordinary career and dedication to the literature of the West. The prizes now encompass 11 subject categories, including the Christopher Isherwood Prize for autobiographical prose, as well as the Robert Kirsch Award for lifetime achievement and the Innovators Award. But the essential mission, a commitment to literary excellence, to intelligence and engagement, to the writer of brilliance and the career of importance, to the most enduring aesthetic and cultural values, endures. Over nearly 4 decades, the recipients of these prizes have included a who's who of contemporary literature, including Nobel laureates Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Doris Lessing, former U.S. Poet Laureates Robert Pinsky and Juan Felipe Herrera, National Book Award winners Joan Didion and Allen Ginsberg, Man Booker Prize winner Margaret Atwood, Newbery Award winner Beverly Cleary, Prince Award winner John Green, and Reading Rainbow host and producer LeVar Burton. The Los Angeles Times Book Prizes are judged by working writers, so in a very real sense, they express the admiration of a community of peers. But even more, they tell us that reading is important, an essential way of connecting with and understanding the world in which we live. In a culture of flash and fashion, this can only bear repeating, which is what the book prizes do. Every year, the book prizes remind us of the power of books to move and enlighten us, to connect us to the best that we as human beings have to offer, to illuminate us through the written word.
Hello, writers and readers. I'm Boris Kochka, and I'm very excited to present the winners of the 2020 Los Angeles Times Book Prizes. I arrived as books editor at the Times at what I thought was a tumultuous moment for the industry and the world. January 2020. Little did we know. The pandemic has upended every single aspect of our lives. But I suspect many of you will agree with me that, never mind the Zooms and the online recipes, it's only deepened our appreciation for the solitary pleasure of reading. It's solitary, but of course it's communal too. Because in reading, we communicate with socially distanced writers and their characters, real or invented. We bond over books with fellow readers, whether in person or online. But we also read to transcend space, time, and our physical selves, to share in the greater human experience. We may self-isolate, but so long as we have books, we are never isolated. So here I am, here we all are, at the first virtual ceremony in the long history of the prizes. For me, the challenge of adapting to unprecedented times only heightens the sense of celebration, the feeling that we're making it through. I want to thank everyone at the Times, especially Ann Binney and Anne-Marie Hauser, the organizers of the book prizes, and the amazing lineup for the Festival of Books, which launches this weekend. And I want to thank the publishers, editors, marketers, and bookstore owners, and especially the writers and readers for a year in which books, at least, thrived. Without further delay, allow me to present the LA Times Book Prizes for the year 2020, beginning with the Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction. This award honors the late Times book editor who founded the book prizes. Working at the paper from 1962 until his death in 1990, Art Seidenbaum was a columnist, book editor, and opinion editor. The finalists for the 2020 First Fiction Prize are These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card, a compelling debut novel that reveals the ways in which a Jamaican family forms and fractures over generations. Mung Jin's Little Gods, a lyrical and thought-provoking debut novel that explores the complex web of grief, family, time, physics, history, and selfhood in the immigrant experience. In The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, Disha Filya explores the raw and tender places where Black women and girls dare to follow their desires and pursue a momentary reprieve from being good. Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart is an unforgettable story of a sweet and lonely boy who spends his 1980s childhood in Glasgow's rundown public housing, while Thatcher's policies put husbands and sons out of work, and a drug epidemic is on the rise. And finally, Shruti Swami's collection of 12 arresting stories, A House is a Body, present a world where dreams collide with reality, modernity with antiquity, and myth with identity. Here to present the winner of the 2020 Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction, is Melissa Chadburn, one of the category judges.
Thank you, Boris. I can assure you, my fellow judges, Jenny McPhee, Rick Whitaker, and I didn't take this task lightly. As fellow writers and lovers of words and books, I took this position in hopes of being a good literary citizen. My heart aches for all the writers who had a debut at this time where I often found myself in an abundance of both grief and gratitude. Now, I'm very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize for the Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction to Disha Philyaw for Secret Lives of Church Ladies. Disha Philyaw's Church Ladies, Tashida, Olivia, Jael, Lily, Rhonda, Lyra, Cashel, to name a few, are women with extraordinary insights into sexuality, misogyny, racism, colorism, patriarchy, family, and so much more. The stories in the secret lives of church ladies linger in the mind long after we read them. Here, church is a woman, church is peach cobbler, church is self-acceptance, and church is Black love. This remarkable debut collection of stories is fiercely Black and beautiful. It announces a powerful new voice on the literary landscape, and we can't wait to read what Philyaw writes next. We're so pleased to have Disha on video speaking about her book.
Good evening. I'm Disha Philyaw, and I'm honored to be a finalist for the Art Seidenbaum Award for First Fiction. I wrote The Secret Lives of Church Ladies in hopes that Black women would see and hear themselves in my characters and their stories. I wrote it to be a balm, an affirmation, a celebration, and a guidepost for getting free. In what has been a devastating year, we are all looking for comfort, solace, and healing, all of which we can find in the shelter of each other and in books. I love hearing from readers that my book has sparked healing conversations in their families and within their churches, even though it's a book that challenges many of the church's foundational teachings about women and sex. I imagine my book out in the world doing what the late John Lewis encouraged us to do, stir up good trouble. May we all do our part to bring healing where there is hurt and justice where there is injustice, and may we all be free.
Next up, we have the biography category, with the 5 books we honor tonight encompassing an artist, a first lady, a trailblazing feminist poet, a Nobel Prize-winning novelist, and a civil rights activist. The finalists for the 2020 Biography Prize are Red Comet, The Short Life and Blazing Art of Sylvia Plath by Heather Clark, which focuses on Plath's remarkable literary and intellectual achievements while restoring the woman behind long-held myths about her life and art. Blake Gopnik's Warhol is a definitive biography of a fascinating and paradoxical figure, and one of the most influential artists of his or any age. Eleanor, by David Michaelis, is a breakthrough portrait of America's longest-serving First Lady, whose agency as a diplomat, activist, and humanitarian made her one of the world's most admired and influential women. The Dead Are Arising, by Les Payne and Tamara Payne, is an epic biography of Malcolm X, drawing on hundreds of hours of the author's interviews over 30 years and completed, after his death, by his daughter and head researcher, rewriting much of the known narrative about this central figure in the African-American freedom struggle. And William Souter's Mad at the World, A Life of John Steinbeck, a resonant biography of America's celebrated novelist, Nobel laureate, lover of the California landscape and sea, and chronicler of the Great Depression. And now, here with the biography winner is Tom Nolan, a member of the 3-judge panel.
Thank you, Boris. We 3 judges, Diane Smith, Marcus Anthony Hunter, and myself, had many wonderful biographies to consider, and then 5 excellent finalists to choose from. We each, I think, could enthusiastically recommend all of our shortlisted titles, but especially, of course, our unanimous choice of winner. I'm very pleased now to present the 2020 Los Angeles Times Book Prize for Biography to William Souter for Mad at the World, A Life of John Steinbeck. Allow me, please, to read our citation. William Souter's absorbing book about John Steinbeck is hardly the first biography of this Nobel Prize-winning American author. But this fine book presents a fresh and incisive portrait of a writer who followed his own path to international significance while retaining a becoming modesty about his achievement. How refreshing it was to learn about a major artist who shunned publicity in order to keep working, and to be reminded of the enduring significance of his humane and unique achievement. And now we're very pleased to have William Souter on video speaking about his book.
Hi, I'm William Souter. I'm the author of Mad at the World, A Life of John Steinbeck, and I'm coming to you from my home in Minnesota, just outside of Minneapolis. My interests are biology, ecology, the environment, mid-20th century American history, because that's a time when all of those disciplines were really coming to the fore. And I'm also interested in writers. And so I look for subjects who embody all of those things. And John Steinbeck certainly did. Finally, I was interested in Steinbeck because I think he really speaks to the time that we live in. His books from the 1930s, the Depression era books that include books like In Dubious Battle and Of Mice and Men, and of course The Grapes of Wrath, are all books that I think have a special kind of echo today. We certainly can relate to them because they are books about people who are dispossessed and displaced. They are books about income inequality. They are books that deal with the concept of forced human migration. And they're also, particularly The Grapes of Wrath, is a book that deals with climate catastrophe. And so I think John Steinbeck remains very, very relevant today, and that was another reason that made me keen to look at his life. So thank you. I want to thank the Los Angeles Times for putting me onto this very prestigious list of biographers, and I also want to congratulate all of my fellow nominees. Thank you.
Historians work to make sense of the past and its influence on our present. These 5 history finalists do that in a way that is introspective, powerful, enlightening, and heartbreaking. Here are the finalists in history. South to Freedom: Runaway Slaves to Mexico and the Road to the Civil War, by USC professor Alice Baumgartner, is a surprising account of the crucial role played by slaves who escaped to Mexico in the lead up to the Civil War. The Deportation Machine: America's Long History of Expelling Immigrants, by Adam Goodman, examines our history of deportation, showing how federal, state, and local officials have targeted groups for expulsion, and illustrating how fear shapes immigrants' lives. The Broken Heart of America: St. Louis and the Violent History of the United States, by Walter Johnson, portrays the racial dynamics that lie at the heart of our nation, told through the turbulent history of the city of St. Louis. Vanguard: How Black Women Broke Barriers, Won the Vote, and Insisted on Equality for All, by Martha S. Jones, is an epic history of African-American women's pursuit of political power and how it transformed the country. The United States of War: A Global History of America's Endless Conflicts, from Columbus to the Islamic State, by David Vine, examines how the U.S. military has shaped our entire world, from today's endless wars to the prominence of violence in everyday American life. And here, with the winner in history, is Natalia Molina, a member of this year's judging panel.
Thank you, Boris. As someone who sees history as not just a study of the past, but as a way to reimagine and remake our future, I am honored to have served as a judge for the LA Times Book Prize in History. On behalf of myself and my fellow judges, Annalisa Grace Cox and Laurent Dubois, I'm very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in History to Martha S. Jones for Vanguard: How Black Women Broke Barriers, Won the Vote, and Insisted on Equality for All. Martha Jones's Vanguard tells the long foundational history of Black women's transformative role in the evolution of democracy in the United States. Starting in the early years of the Republic, Jones introduces us to the unsung heroes of our nation who spoke and wrote in support of equality long before the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848. Jones powerfully weaves together the stories of individual women with those of the communities they were a part of and the organizations they created, centering an often overlooked but vital genealogy of thought and democratic practice. Their stories stand as a reminder that creating a democracy takes constant and heroic effort. Without these women who stood at the vanguard, this nation would not be what it is today. beautifully written and rivetingly told. This story recasts the political and intellectual history of the U.S. in a way that illuminates both the present and the future. We are so pleased to have Martha Jones on video speaking about her book.
I'm Martha Jones, and I'm the author of Vanguard, How Black Women Broke Barriers, Won the Vote, and Insisted on Equality for All. I'm honored to be among the works of history recognized this year by the Los Angeles Times. I wrote Vanguard because it was the book I needed to read in 2020. I knew that we were going to be marking the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, the so-called Women's Suffrage Amendment, and I wanted to be sure that the roles that Black women had played in that story were not overlooked. And I think we succeeded on that front. What I couldn't have anticipated was the extraordinary range of roles that Black women would play, consequential roles in the 2020 election cycle. And if I was looking for affirmation of the story I told in Vanguard, I got it in August of 2020 when then Vice President Kamala Harris took to the podium at the Democratic National Convention to accept the nomination. She was going to run alongside Joe Biden. In her speech, she invoked 6 women: Mary Church Terrell, Ida B. Wells, Mary McLeod Bethune, Diane Nash, Constance Baker Motley, and Fannie Lou Hamer. And in that moment, Kamala Harris introduced the country to an important chapter in American political history, and she also invoked a number of the women who, in fact, appear in Vanguard. So this is a book that I hope helps all Americans appreciate how Black women have come to be an extraordinary force in 21st century politics.
And now for the 2020 Christopher Isherwood Prize for Autobiographical Prose. Sponsored by the Christopher Isherwood Foundation, this award encompasses fiction, travel writing, memoir, and diary, and honors exceptional work. This year's winner is Andrew O'Hagan for the coming-of-age novel Mayflies. Here's Diana Wagman of the Isherwood Prize Committee to read the judge's citation for Mayflies.
Thank you, Boris. My fellow judges and I were reading through the pandemic and worse, through the election madness. What a relief it was to get online with Isabel Fonseca, Dominga Martinez, and Marian Rogers to talk books. I was grateful to have them and so many wonderful books to read. The Christopher Isherwood Prize is an unusual award. It includes memoir and fiction, but we search for writing that explores and then transcends the personal to make it universal. We had many great submissions this time, but our winner was an easy choice. And now I'm very pleased to formally present the 2020 LA Times Christopher Isherwood Prize for Autobiographical Prose to Andrew O'Hagan for Mayflies. In a classically shaped story based on events in his own life, Andrew O'Hagan masterfully captures a particular time and place. Glasgow during the 1980s, with its post-punk music and the Thatcher era. This is the story of 2 young men and one seminal night during their lives, culminating in a dramatic ending that leaves readers stunned with admiration and equally awed by the fierce, determined courage of the lead character named Tully. There is also a universality among the themes, youth and the time when everything is agony, but when it feels that anything might yet happen. The throb of the possible, the shimmering future, and always alongside the bigger question of free will. In keeping with the legacy of Christopher Isherwood, Andrew O'Hagan's prose is accessible and engaging, distinctive and original. Funny, well-paced, and elegant, Mayflies is a striking achievement. And we're so pleased to have Andrew O'Hagan on video speaking about his book.
Hello everybody, I'm Andrew O'Hagan speaking to you today from London. You know, it's been such a weird year everywhere. such an unforgettably bleak and strange time. But there's a bit of light in my world today, thanks to the Los Angeles Times Book Prizes. I'm so proud and honoured to be recognised in the awards this year for my book Mayflies. The 2020 Christopher Isherwood Prize for autobiographical prose is that kind of award that once even you clap eyes on it, you think, that's the one I want. It's so close to my heart, the whole legacy of Christopher Isherwood, the wonderfulness of his prose, is something that offers a guiding light, I think, to so many of us. When I set out to write Mayflies, I knew from the start that it would be not only an intimate book, but my most autobiographical. My dying friend and I came up with a pact that I would write a novel about our childhood and about the last year of his life. And it came from the heart. Some books just do. Philip Roth once said that writers are always looking for a plane of satisfaction, if you like, between the lived life, the autobiographical, and the imaginary, the madness of art, if you like. I want to thank you all. I wish we were in a hall somewhere raising a glass to each other and to the idea of the literary pursuit tonight. But we don't have that. I want to say thank you so much to all of you for tuning in and for giving me such a boost with this award.
Paula L. Woods said of this next group of writers in our own pages that they are unafraid to explore difficult topics with diverse characters, unencumbered by expectations from readers about genre or the darkest corners of our culture. Here are the finalists for Mystery Thriller. Christopher Boland weaves a story of intrigue and deception in a beautiful crime. Set in contemporary Venice and featuring a young American couple who have set their sights on a risky con. Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby is described as Ocean's 11 meets Drive, with a southern noir twist. A searing story of a man pushed to his limits by poverty, race, and his own former life of crime. And Now She's Gone by Rachel Housel Hall focuses on two women in a dangerous cat and mouse game, exploring the nature of secrets and how violence and fear can lead you to abandon everything to survive. In Jennifer Hillier's Little Secrets, a woman overwhelmed by tragedy desperately tries to save her marriage in this riveting novel of psychological suspense. These Women by Ivy Pacoda is a serial killer story like you've never seen before, a literary thriller of female empowerment and social change. To name the 2020 winner in Mystery Thriller, here is Aline Cogdill, a member of the judging panel.
Thank you, Boris. It was an honor to judge the Mystery Thriller category along with my fellow judges, Michael Nava and Naomi Hirahara. We were delighted with the scope of the novels being published this year by the diverse voices, and it made our job rather difficult and hard to narrow it down to only 5 finalists. We congratulate each of our finalists. And I'm now very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in the Mystery Thriller category to S.A. Cosby for Blacktop Wasteland. Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby, published by Flatiron, centers on a young family man at a crossroads in his life. This compelling novel deeply explores issues of race, responsibility, parenthood, moral complexities, and questions of identity. It's set in an economically strapped area of Virginia. Cosby's story really reflects the concerns of the 21st century, with fully fleshed out characters with very realistic motives. And we're very pleased to have S.A. Cosby here on video to talk about his book. Congratulations, S.A.
So when I sat down to write Blacktop Wasteland, I wanted to tell a story that referenced and respected the Black rural experience, while also talking about tragic and toxic masculinity and the effects that the sins of the fathers have on the sons and the daughters. For me, it was important to find the truth of that story. I firmly believe that writers tell lies to find the truth. And that's what I set out to accomplish, and hopefully that's what I did. I do want to thank the LA Times Book Awards for recognizing Blacktop Wasteland. It's an incredible honor, an honor that I'm so happy to share with all the other nominees. It is truly a highlight in my writing career, and I appreciate all their support as the book has come out and found an audience. So thank you for that, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this incredible experience.
Since 1980, the book prizes have honored an author of the American West whose literary contributions deserve special recognition. The Robert Kirsch Award is named for novelist, editor, and teacher Robert Kirsch, who spent many years as the paper's book critic before his death in 1980. Our 41st winner of the Robert Kirsch Award for Lifetime Achievement is Leslie Marmon Silko. We are so pleased to recognize Leslie's remarkable writing career, spanning more than 4 decades. Her contributions to the Renaissance of Native American literature and art paved the way for subsequent generations of Native American writers. Her work draws on the myths and traditions of her Laguna Pueblo heritage to powerfully illuminate the lives of her characters. She has also expanded the canon of America's literature to include its original cultures and ways of seeing the world. I'm thrilled to introduce another Robert Kirsch Award recipient and a good friend of Leslie Marmon Silko's to make some remarks on Leslie's behalf. Here is poet, memoirist, and fiction writer Maxine Hong Kingston.
Thank you for giving Leslie Marmon Silko the Robert Kirsch Award. And thank you, Leslie, for helping us live our lives in the American West more truly and deeply. I will always remember our travels in the East, China, and seeing for ourselves that East and West are connected. There was a land bridge, a rainbow land bridge, and our peoples crossed it back and forth and back. Your earring beads were the exact colors and shapes on the columns of temples: red, green, blue, and white. You bought a rug that had the same designs as on your poncho. It was so heavy that Allen Ginsberg carried it for you, his way of apologizing for arguing with you about the lives of writers in the US versus their lives in China. I really got a kick out of the way you would say, "Meanwhile," and then talk story of what was happening elsewhere. In your head, I know you were working on Almanac of the Dead. And I was working on Tripmaster Monkey. And Toni Morrison was working on Beloved. We did not have to talk shop. We were breathing in inspiration. You're not only a writer, Leslie. You are a sibyl, an oracle, a prophet. You suffered from visions of the US military and weapons at the Mexican border. Today, we can see that those omens have come true. I have a feeling that you are not going about in public because you are in mourning, not only pain at what's happening to our Southwest, but at Larry McMurtry's death. It's good to remember him today as we honor you. He too was given the Kirsch Award for creating the West in story. Thank you, Leslie, for all you do.
Now, shifting gears to stories, both fiction and nonfiction, that celebrate the union of image and word on the page. The finalists in graphic novel comics are Uma's Table by Yeon-Sik Hong, translated by Janet Hong. The Korean comics artist presents a beautiful and heartbreaking meditation on how the kitchen and communal cooking bind a family together. Blue Flag, Volume 1-4, by Kato, is a wonderful romance manga featuring an unexpected love quadrangle. Sports is Hell, by Ben Passmore, is a powerful work of satire that takes on political action, race, violence, and capitalism, using sports as an ominous backdrop for a broader fable of societal breakdown. Apsara Engine, by Bishak Som, is a graphic short story collection immersed in questions of gender, the body, and existential conformity. Finally, Come Home Indio, a memoir by Jim Terry, is a charming but brutally honest look at the pain of childhood and the alienation and anxiety of early adulthood. Now here to present the winner in graphic novel comics is Angie Wang, a judge in the category.
Thank you, Boris. My fellow judges, Kathy Johnson and Charles Solomon, and I were honored to judge the graphic novel category this year, and I'm very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in Graphic Novel Comics to Vishak Som for Apsara Engine. We've found an exciting new voice worthy of celebration in Apsara Engine's speculative queer future and magical realist present. Uncanny and hopeful, Vishak Som's book presents its subjects lyrically, rendering the complex interplay between the characters in deft watercolor. Although Apsara Engine is Som's debut graphic novel, it's a remarkable work, imaginatively expansive and thoughtfully realized. And we're so pleased to have Vishak Som on video speaking about the book.
Hi, this is Vishak Som. I am the author and artist of Apsara Engine, which is up for a 2021 Los Angeles Times Book Prize in the category of graphic novels. Apsara Engine was published by the Feminist Press and was brought to life by the amazing people there, including Jisoo, Lauren, Drew, Lucia, Nick, Jamia, Aaliyah. Thank you all so much. I'd started Apsara Engine at a time of uncertainty and risk in my life. I had just quit my full-time job in architecture and had abandoned my career in architecture to focus on art and comics. And at the same time, I'd come out as trans. So it was a time of double uncertainty for me. And I feel like this book, which is, about characters like hungry chimeras and witchy ex-girlfriends and exiled Maharanis, is as much about them as it is about the idea and theme of uncertainty and fluctuation in general. And I feel like the book is also a marker of transness and of a time of transitioning and of change for me. So I'm so happy that it has resonated with folks. And thank you so much to the Los Angeles Times for recognizing it and for nominating it for a book prize. Thank you so much. I'm a very, very, very happy gal.
Our next group of authors, who are scientists and science writers, have tackled some of the biggest questions of our time with passion and precision. Here are the finalists in Science and Technology. The Alignment Problem, Machine Learning and Human Values, by Brian Christian, is a jaw-dropping exploration of everything that goes wrong when we build AI systems and the movement to fix them. Why Fish Don't Exist, a story of loss, love, and the hidden order of life, by NPR reporter Lulu Miller, is part biography, part memoir, part scientific adventure, about how to persevere in a world where chaos prevails. The Alchemy of Us, How Humans and Matter Transformed One Another, by Anissa Ramirez, examines 8 inventions, among them clocks, photographic film, light bulbs, and silicon chips, and reveals how they have shaped human experience. Sarah Seeger is an MIT astrophysicist who reinvented herself in the wake of tragedy, discovering the power of connection on this planet and beyond, in her memoir, The Smallest Lights in the Universe. And finally, The Book of Eels, our enduring fascination with the most mysterious creature in the natural world, by Patrick Svensson, is both a meditation on the world's most elusive fish, the eel, and a reflection on the human condition. Now let's welcome Judge Betsy Mason to reveal the winner.
Thanks, Boris. It was an interesting experience reading the books in this year's Science and Technology category against a backdrop of a pandemic that has changed so much about our lives. Though these books were written in pre-COVID times, some of them still managed to feel timely and relevant. We were fortunate to have some wonderful, creative, and insightful memoirs to consider, including several of the finalists chosen by me and my fellow judges, Erica Check-Hayden and Anil Ananthaswamy. And now I'm very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in Science and Technology to Sarah Seeger for The Smallest Lights in the Universe, a memoir. In The Smallest Lights in the Universe, Sarah Seeger interweaves her personal and scientific journeys in a singular memoir. Seeger's story of navigating the death of her husband has a universal resonance, even as she shares her unique perspectives as a woman in the male-dominated field of astrophysics and as a person with autism. In a year when so much has been lost, Seeger offers a compelling meditation on how to survive and thrive in the face of tremendous adversity. And we're so pleased to have Sarah Seeger on video speaking about her book.
Hi, I'm excited to be here for the Los Angeles Times Book Prizes, Science and Technology category. In my memoir, The Smallest Lights in the Universe, I write about what I love about being a scientist, the exhilarating journey of exploration, and what it's like to be on the cutting edge of discovering brand new worlds. I'm a professor at MIT, where my job is to search for alien life. Not little green humanoids, but searching for planets orbiting other stars. Every star is a sun, and we already know of thousands of suns out there that have planets. There are billions of stars in our galaxy alone, making the possibilities out there huge and wondrous. Well, we all know that life can change in the blink of an eye. And part of my memoir is about tragedy and trauma and the inner journey of how to climb out of this deep well of despair. So I love exploring outer space, and my book captures that, along with our search for meaning, something that we all carry with us.
The best young adult literature has diverse, believable, and relatable characters. Our group of finalists incorporate vivid verse, a twist on Arthurian legend, and cartoon drawings to speak to teens powerfully and honestly about real-world issues. The Black Flamingo is a fierce coming-of-age verse novel about identity and the power of drag, from acclaimed British poet and performer Dean Atta. Legendborn, the debut contemporary fantasy from Tracy Deonn, is filled with mystery and an intriguingly rich magic system, weaving Arthurian adventure with a heavy dose of Southern Black girl magic. High school students embark on a crash course of friendship, female empowerment, and women's health issues in Lily Williams and Karen Schneeman's graphic novel, Go With the Flow. The Snow Fell 3 Graves Deep, Voices from the Donner Party by Alan Wolfe, is a powerful and vivid portrait in verse of one of history's most harrowing tales of survival. And lastly, Punching the Air by Ibi Zoboi and Dr. Yusuf Salam of the Exonerated Five deliver a powerful novel in verse about a boy who is wrongfully incarcerated. Here's Hannah Gomez to name the winner of this year's award in Young Adult Literature.
Thank you, Boris. Young adult literature is a vibrant, diverse category of literature that speaks to us all, which is probably why it's become so popular with adults. But at its heart, it's supposed to support and affirm teens and their experiences in the world. That's what my fellow judges and I kept in mind while reading for this prize. Every year it gets tougher and tougher because YA grows and grows. I'd like to thank the other two members of my committee, Sharon Levin and Christina Vorsha, for helping me come to this decision. And now I'm very excited to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in Young Adult Literature to Ibi Zoboi and Dr. Yusuf Salam for their book, Punching the Air. Amal Shahid, whose name means hope, is a poet and artist. His school and the judicial system see him only as a problem and then as a criminal. Told in gut punching, needs to be read aloud verse, Punching the Air immerses readers in Amal's journey through poetry and art, into his pain, frustration, and ultimately to a glimmer of hope. I'm so pleased to have Ibi Zoboi and Dr. Yusuf Salam on video speaking about their book.
So we wrote Punching the Air. It's a fictionalized version of your experience as a teen who was falsely convicted of a crime, but we met in 1999 in college. And why don't you say a little bit more about what Punching the Air means to you?
Yeah, Punching the Air is really a love offering. I love this book because for me, it gives us an opportunity to really explore the criminal justice system, but really what it's like to be a Black child, right? In America, living in any town America, right? And so we give it this backdrop to the landscape that we see with our own eyes, right? That we're seeing right now playing out with our own eyes. And I just love it because it for me, it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's about victory, but it's also about fighting the good fight, fighting the things that you can't see, and still having the strength to make sure that you put that fight to work in everything that you do.
And Punching the Air is also about art and the power of art, the redemptive power of art. Amal is an artist and he's a poet, in the same way that Yusef was an artist and poet at 16 years old when he was falsely convicted of a crime. My contribution to this book is being Yusef's friend over 20 years ago, having watched the Central Park 5 case as a middle schooler and being impacted by that case as growing up in New York City. And as a young adult author, it has been a tremendous honor to work on this book with you. It was edifying, it was healing for me, and it is my love offering to the brothers in my life, my husband, my son, my brother, my nephews. And thank you so much for allowing me to share this journey with you, Yusef. And this book is continuing to impact the lives of young people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you as well. This has been a wonderful journey. I couldn't have imagined it this way. I mean, when you saw me at the book festival so many years ago, and you were like, what are you doing? Why are you selling your own book? You need to be able to be out there in the world of literature. And I'm like, huh? It was like you were speaking a foreign language to me. And here we are sharing this great moment. And I really, really appreciate you for that, really pulling me into this new space of being able to share this really personal part of me, right? This is my story, but really it's not just my story. It's the story of Black and brown bodies in America. You know, it's the story that allows us to really be able to begin the healing process because we begin the conversations through reading and through walking vicariously in each other's shoes. So I think and hope that my prayer is that this book finds its way far and wide, every corner of the globe, and it impacts everyone in the same way that it's been impacting people and be celebrated in the same way that it's been celebrated. And I thank you for helping me on this journey as well. I can't wait to see what else is in store.
Absolutely. Thank you to the LA Times Book Prize judges. Thank you to the LA Times, and thank you to readers everywhere.
Cyrus Cassels, the panel chair in poetry, best describes our next group. With innovation and visionary craft, our 5 finalists in poetry explore African American, Asian American, Latino, and Native American realities, investing in the elegy, the homage, the praise song, and the occasional poem with newfound relevance and luster. Here are the nominees in poetry. After her mother died, Victoria Chang distilled her grief by writing scores of poetic obituaries for all she lost in the world. These beautiful, heartfelt poems make up OBIT. Borderland Apocrypha by Anthony Cody is an avant-garde examination of how borderlands remain occupied spaces and of the necessity of liberation to usher the earth and its people toward healing. Post-Colonial Love Poem by Natalie Diaz is an anthem of desire against erasure, demanding that every body in its pages, bodies of language, land, rivers, suffering brothers, enemies, and lovers, be held as beloveds. The Age of Phyllis by Honoré Fannin Jeffers is a meticulously researched collection of poems that imagines the remarkable life and times of Phyllis Wheatley, the first Black woman to publish a book in America. Love Child's Hotbed of Occasional Poetry, Poems and Artifacts by Nikki Finney, is a 21st century paean to the sterling love songs humming throughout 400 years of Black American life. Now here with the winner is Judge Cyrus Cassels, a 4-year veteran of this category.
Thank you, Boris. Hi, I'm Cyrus Cassels, the Poetry Chair, and on behalf of my incredible fellow jurors, Adriana Ramirez and Pulitzer Prize winner Toyama Jess, it's my pleasure to salute our dynamic finalists and to announce that the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in Poetry goes to Victoria Chang for OBIT, chronicling her mother's death and father's stroke and aphasia. Victoria Chang's innovative poetic obituaries speak to us in a startling way about death and loss with surprising, sometimes surreal juxtapositions of image that never allow the enthralled reader to settle into one groove. This is a book of hard-won, pressing truths and lived experience that hits the bullseye repeatedly. To love anyone means to admit extinction. Eschewing reflexive gestures of mourning, CHANG explores bigotry's poison and grief's architecture with a cinema verite directness. There must be some way to draw a picture so that it doesn't become an elegy. In a time of sweeping pandemic, Victoria CHANG's deeply human and unerring OBIT rivets us with bell-like clarity, pertinence, and power. Congratulations, Victoria. And we're so pleased to have Victoria share on video about her moving and impressive book.
Hi, my name is Victoria CHANG. In a time when so many Asian Americans and those from other marginalized communities still face daily violence, racism, and misogyny, I feel particularly moved to be nominated for the Los Angeles Times Book Prize in Poetry. I wrote my book, OBIT, when I felt most alone, traveling on a raft at sea, uncertain if I could find my way back. I wrote this book for myself, the book that I most needed in a time of grieving. It pains me to think that others might find this book when they too are in their deepest moments of grief. But I believe what Kafka said, quote, "I think we ought to read only the kind of books that wound or stab us. If the book we're reading doesn't wake us up with a blow to the head, what are we reading for? A book must be the axe for the frozen sea within us." Unquote. Thank you to the Los Angeles Times Book Prizes and to the judges for this recognition, and it's such an honor to be in camaraderie with this year's other finalists in poetry, all poets and books I admire. I also want to thank my family, friends, and supporters, the web of people who buttress me and who I learn from every single day. I want to thank Copper Canyon Press, Michael Wiegers, Elena Ellis, Laura Buccieri, Joseph Bednarek, John Pierce, Janine Armstrong, and the whole group of wonderful folks there who still believe that words matter, that words keep us alive and connected to something bigger than ourselves. Thank you again, and congratulations to all the nominees in all of the categories.
The Innovators Award spotlights efforts to bring books, publishing, and storytelling into the future. The 2020 winner is the Book Industry Charitable Foundation, BINC, honoring its contributions and work assisting struggling independent bookstores and employees in a year when many small businesses were forced to shut their doors. BINC's important mission to help stores weather natural disasters and economic hardship was never more important than during the catastrophic year of 2020, when physical retail businesses suffered so much due to the pandemic. We are thrilled to recognize their work. Here is Pamela French, Executive Director of BINC, to accept the award on behalf of her organization.
Hi, I'm Pam French, the Executive Director of the Book Industry Charitable Foundation, or BINC Foundation. We are honored to be selected as the 2020 Innovators Award winner, and we're thrilled to be named with such distinctive fellow Los Angeles Times Book Prize Award winners. One of the accomplishments we are most proud of is that no one in need of financial assistance since the pandemic began a year ago has been turned away. Due to the generosity of advocates from across the nation, every eligible bookstore, comic shop employee and owner received and continues to receive the support they need to face both everyday life crises and those caused by the global pandemic. From helping to pay rent, to prevent homelessness, to assistance with medical expenses, to referrals for food pantries, to purchasing PPE, BINC was able to help over 2,200 individuals and stores through a most challenging year. For perspective, in just over 8 weeks, BINC was able to help as many comic and book people as we had in the previous 8 years. I humbly accept this award on behalf of the BINC Foundation Board of Directors, staff, donors, and advocates. Their passion and support provided us with the means to help a record number of individuals and families. The LA Times recognition of this work means the world to us, and to the book and comic industry. Thank you.
The mission of the Ray Bradbury Prize for Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Speculative Fiction is to honor and extend Bradbury's literary legacy by celebrating and elevating the writers working in his field today. Bradbury always made his own rules, writing across specific genre boundaries throughout his career. The 5 finalists for this year's prize follow his example. Here, an essay by Susanna Clarke introduces an astonishing new world, an infinite labyrinth full of startling images and surreal beauty, haunted by the tides and the clouds. Lakewood is Megan Giddings' startling debut novel about class and race, evoking a terrifying world of medical experimentation. In The City We Became, Book 1 of the Great Cities trilogy, N.K. Jemisin crafts an incredible story of culture, identity, magic, and myths in contemporary New York City. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones is a novel that is equal parts psychological horror and cutting social commentary on identity politics and the American Indian experience. And last but not least, Where the Wild Ladies Are by Ayoko Matsuda, translated by Polly Barton, collects feminist retellings of Japanese folktales, from shape-shifting wives to magical trees, presenting a world in which humans encounter the only sometimes visible forces that surround them. Tananarive Due, a judge for the Bradbury Prize, is here to present this year's winner.
Thank you, Boris. This is the second year I have judged for the Ray Bradbury Award for Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Speculative Fiction, and it is such a challenging but wonderful category, full of stories and imagination from writers and experiences all over the world. Fantasy, futurism, magic, monsters, and we have to decide a winner. I'm also pleased to have served for the second year with my fellow judges, Kelly Link and Tim Pratt. And now I'm very pleased to announce the 2020 LA Times Ray Bradbury Prize for Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Speculative Fiction to Stephen Graham Jones for The Only Good Indians. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones is both terrifying and important, one of the most ambitious, harrowing, and unusual novel our judges have ever read. In Jones's masterful hands as a literary stylist, even a mundane ceiling fan is a portal to terror, following a path rooted in cultural hunting traditions that are both rich and revelatory. Each carefully chosen word and image transports the reader deeper into the unknown. The characters are vivid, complex, and believable, and that only amplifies the mounting dread as their lives come apart. As lifetime readers of supernatural horror, it is hard to surprise us. But entering Jones's world is like being in the midst of a nightmare the reader cannot turn away from, but has no idea how it might end. It's a story that lingers long after the last page is turned. I'm so pleased to have Stephen Graham Jones on video speaking about his book.
Hello, I am Stephen Graham Jones. This is my novel, The Only Good Indians. When I was writing The Only Good Indians, I didn't know I was writing a novel. How that happened was, well, it wasn't like I just looked down and I'm like, hey, well, what's going on here? Turns out I'm writing a novel. It was that I owed Ellen Datlow, the horror editor, a novella. I had done mapping the interior for her, and she said, give me another one. So I said, sure. Mapping took 4 days. Got 4 days to kill. So I sat down, hammered down some pages, and it turned into a novel. So I figured, oh well, you win some, you lose some. So I sat down to write another novella, and I wrote another novel. And I started thinking, have you forgotten how to write a novella? So then I sat down a third time, and I wrote first 115 pages of The Only Good Indians. And it got to the end, and there was one way you could go and another way with it. It was a line. I could do one line here or one line there, and it would stay a novella or it would open up into a novel. And texted my agent, BJ Robbins, and I said, what should I do? I'll go whichever way you tell me to. And she texted back and she said, novels are easier to sell than novellas, so go ahead and make it a novel. So I did. And the whole first part used to be in second person too. Well, it used to be and a fake second person that reveals itself at the end to be dramatic monologue. But then my editor Joe Monty had me dial all that back wisely, of course. And so now, The Only Good Indians, a novel, not a novella. Thank you.
We connect to our common humanity when we can imagine the lives of characters in the novels we read. This year's finalists in fiction offer us that opportunity for empathy and human connection while transporting us to other worlds, both near and far. The finalists for the 2020 Fiction Prize are In What Happens at Night by Peter Cameron. A couple finds themselves at a fading grand European hotel filled with unsettling patrons in a story both funny and heartbreaking, examining shifting desires and the uncertainty of reality. At Night, All Blood is Black marks the English language historical fiction debut of David Diop, translated by Anna Moskavakis. This anti-war treatise explores terror and transformation in the trenches of the First World War. The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwaeke Emezi is a novel of family and friendship that challenges expectations. It is a story of loss and transcendence that teems with unforgettable characters. Danielle Evans brings her signature voice to the subjects of race, grief, apology, and American history, chronicling how these subjects reverberate through daily life in the Office of Historical Corrections, a novella and stories. And last, Sarah Shunlin Bynum explores the contradictions of our contemporary moment in likes: friendship, parenthood, celebrity, obsession, race, class, and the passage of time are all essential themes in this collection. And now here to present the 2020 winner in fiction is Jenny McPhee, a member of the judging panel.
Thank you, Boris. I must say that last year of all years was one great time to be compelled to read a lot of fiction. Escaping into the many extraordinary novels and collections of short stories published in 2020 gave me a lot of hope, as well as much needed tools for surviving and carrying on. So I'm very grateful to all of the amazing writers we read for that. And who better to do it all with than my fellow judges, both astonishing writers themselves, Melissa Chadburn and Rick Whitaker. So it is my particular honor and privilege to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize for Fiction to David Diop for his novel, At Night, All Blood is Black, translated from the French by Anna Moskavakis. Dark, gruesome, vivid, utterly compelling, At Night, All Blood is Black, a war story of racism, colonialism, violence, fear, innocence, and madness, is ultimately about the power of storytelling and how stories get told, or very often don't. The novel is grounded in the worldview of Senegal's Wolof people. And among the novel's many universal themes, we feel David Diop confounds our notions of justice and mercy, showing how these beliefs can work to blur the edges between enemy and ally, for better and for worse. Diop is a master craftsman, a deep thinker, and a beautiful writer. And to give you just one gorgeous sentence among so many, I quote, "And here I had to fall on him, like death and destruction on innocence. That's war. It's when God lags behind the music of men, when he can't untangle the threads of so many fates at the same time." My fellow judges and I had never read anything like this novel before, and the translation by Anna Moskavakis is superb. And we're so pleased to have David on video speaking about the book.
Bonjour à tous, je remercie chaleureusement le jury du Los Angeles Times Book Prize d'avoir sélectionné dans la catégorie fiction parmi les finalistes At Night, All Blood is Black. C'est très émouvant pour moi de me savoir lu sur les bords de l'océan Pacifique, moi qui ai toujours vécu et écrit non loin de l'océan Atlantique, que ce soit au Sénégal ou en France. Je suis également très honoré de me retrouver sélectionné en tant que francophone au milieu d'écrivains talentueux de langue anglaise. Et je dois cette chance à ma traductrice Anna Moskavakis, une écrivaine américaine, une poétesse, qui par son talent a su faire de At Night All Blood is Black une œuvre qui a su vous toucher. Comme quoi, l'émotion littéraire n'a pas de frontières.
And finally, we have current interest. The richly reported books we celebrate tonight explore race, justice, mental health, the immigrant experience, bias, and discrimination, and compel us to look at how we got here and where we go. Brittany K. Barnett's A Knock at Midnight, a story of hope, justice, and freedom, is a call to free those buried alive by America's legal system, from an important new voice in the movement to transform that system. Galvanized by her work in our nation's jails, psychiatrist Christine Montrose illuminates the human cost of mass incarceration and mental illness in her riveting glimpse into America's prison system, Waiting for an Echo. Jacob Sabaroff, an award-winning NBC News correspondent, lays bare the truth behind the Trump administration's systematic separation of families at the US-Mexico border in Separated, Inside an American Tragedy. Carla Cornejo Villavicencio, one of the first undocumented immigrants to graduate from Harvard, reveals the hidden lives of Americans without legal status in this deeply personal and groundbreaking portrait of a nation, The Undocumented Americans. And finally, the Pulitzer Prize-winning author Isabel Wilkerson examines the unspoken caste system that has shaped America and shows how our lives are still defined by a hierarchy of human divisions in her groundbreaking work, Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. Now please welcome Celeste Freeman, part of the judging panel that picked this year's finalists, to reveal their winner.
Thank you, Boris. Current interest is an exciting and challenging category to judge. That was particularly true, however, this past year because there were so many books of real consequence that were also beautifully written, as exemplified by our 5 finalists. Yet when it came to choosing our winner, my fellow judges, Sandy Banks, Bill Boyarsky, and I were very clear that we had found exactly the right book. And now I'm very pleased to present the 2020 LA Times Book Prize in Current Interest to Isabel Wilkerson for Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. Misperception about race is America's enduring and disfiguring quandary. In Caste, author Isabel Wilkerson convincingly describes another age-old system of artificial hierarchy that has deemed millions of Indians untouchable, sent 6 million European Jews to death camps, and still imposes systemic oppression on Black Americans. Caste is beyond racism, Wilkerson writes. It's an unspoken system of human ranking, a false division enforced by the dominant caste, which erects legal, cultural, and social barriers to justify its dehumanization. In exploring the concept which has forever shaped our nation's fate, Wilkerson blends stellar reporting and scholarship with lived experience to write the rare book that can recast a reader's perceptions permanently. And so now we are so very pleased to have Isabel on video speaking about the remarkable book that she has given to all of us.
Thank you so very much to the Los Angeles Times Book Prizes for making it possible for us to be able to join together in this way. It is such an honor and a joy to be able to participate. This book was a quest for understanding. It required me to travel between 3 different continents and to study and to learn and to distill and to synthesize the history and the culture of 3 different countries in order to better understand our own. This book essentially is a book written by an American, for Americans, about America at a time of existential crisis. Thank you so much for including this book among so many distinguished works as you honor the books of 2020. Thank you so very much.
And that concludes our program. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us at the Virtual Festival of Books over the next week, including panels with some of the authors featured here tonight. Thank you and good night.